Today, we're going to talk about learning to stay. By now, you know that the hardest part about losing weight is not the getting started part, it's the staying. Staying when the scale is slow, staying when life gets stressful, staying when old habits call your name, or when you have a disappointing week. And here's another one that might be surprising to hear: staying when things are finally working. We tend to assume that if someone self sabotages, it's because they're unmotivated, undisciplined, or they just don't want success badly enough. But often, self sabotage happens because success feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliarity can feel unsafe. So when you've spent years in the cycle, starting over, giving up, feeling disappointed in yourself, your mind and your body get used to that pattern. You know how to handle failure. You even know how to handle frustration. You know how to handle telling yourself, I knew I couldn't do it. And as painful as all of those are, those feel familiar. But success can feel much more vulnerable. Success means that maybe people are going to notice. It means that you have to trust yourself, that there is now something to lose. Success can mean that you no longer are able to hide behind someday. And that can feel scary. Sometimes people reach a certain point in their journey and all of a sudden they start feeling uncomfortable or restless or overwhelmed. And often we don't understand why. After all, we're doing well, we're seeing progress. I should feel happy, right? But deep down, a different part of us might be asking, what if I can't keep this up? What if I lose it and gain it all back? What if I change and still don't feel good enough? What if I succeed and then I don't even know who I am anymore? What if my relationships change or people look at me different? What if they expect more from me? And those fears are often quiet. They don't always sound dramatic. Sometimes they show up as phrases like, I just deserve a day off. I'll start again after the holiday. One bad weekend isn't going to matter. Tired of thinking of this. Just need a break from everything. And I want you to consider that the idea that's underneath those thoughts could be that there's something else deeper happening. A part of you might be trying to return to what feels emotionally safe, not because you want to fail, not because you're weak, and not even because you're incapable. It's because you're human. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. And sometimes our brain confuses familiar with safety. And that's why this stage of the journey matters so much. You've stayed consistent longer than you usually do. You've kept going, even through disappointment, even when the scales didn't go the direction you wanted them to. If you haven't quit every time, then you're doing something incredibly important. You're teaching yourself that success is safe. You're teaching yourself that you can stay. And you're proving yourself that disappointment does not have to mean defeat. Maybe in the past, a frustrating way in would have made you spiral. Maybe you would have told yourself, it's not working. And maybe in that moment, you would have eaten out of frustration, out of shame, or hopelessness. But now you're learning to say, I don't like this, but I can handle it. I can be disappointed without giving up. I can trust the process even when it feels slow, and I don't need to run. That is emotional growth, and that's what creates lasting change. Real change Honestly, it's not built in the exciting weeks when everything's going well. Real change is built in the uncomfortable moments when you choose to stay. Now, as I was researching for this lesson, there was something else that I realized. There's another layer to this that we don't always think about. When we talk about feeling our feelings, we usually assume that means that we need to feel the hard feelings: sadness, fear, anger, disappointment, hopelessness, frustration, overwhelm. But sometimes we struggle just as much by allowing ourselves to feel positive feelings. Sometimes feeling good about ourselves can feel almost dangerous. Joy can feel vulnerable, like your insides are living on the outside. Pride can feel uncomfortable. We've been taught not to feel proud because at any moment we could slip up again. Feeling successful can feel unfamiliar because we have spent years telling ourselves what failures we are because the scale wasn't moving in the direction we wanted it to. Sometimes feeling good about yourself can feel just as unsafe as feeling bad. So even when something good is happening, we find we're pulling ourselves back. We downplay our progress. We tell ourselves it's not enough. We refuse to celebrate. We wait for the other shoe to drop. And it can feel safer not to get too excited. The French philosopher Rene Descartes wrote in his 1637 discourse on the method, "I think, therefore I am." If you never allow yourself to feel proud, confident, hopeful, or happy, part of you may keep returning to the old patterns, not because they serve you, but because those feel familiar and they reflect what you have believed about yourself in the past. Healing isn't just learning how to survive hard feelings, it's also learning to embrace good feelings. Can you let yourself feel proud of your progress? Can you let yourself enjoy feeling stronger? Can you let yourself believe that maybe this time is different? Can you let yourself feel hopeful without immediately talking yourself out of it? Those are important questions to ask yourself. Because if you can learn to stay with the good feelings instead of running from them, you may stop sabotaging the very things that you have worked so hard to build. You don't have to rush and you don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to have everything figured out. You only have to keep teaching yourself one choice at a time that you are safe right here where you are. You're safe in the discomfort, the uncertainty, the progress, safe in the success. The old version of you may have believed that disappointment meant that you should quit. But the new version of you is learning disappointment, that's just part of the process. The old version of you may have believed that success would be too hard to maintain. But the new version of you is learning that success does not have to feel overwhelming. The old version of you often wanted to run the moment that things got uncomfortable. The new version of you is learning to stay. And maybe the staying is where the real transformation is. Not just losing weight, but becoming someone who no longer needs to escape every time life, change, success, or emotions feel uncomfortable. Because the more often you stay, the more your mind and your body learn, I'm safe, I can handle this, I don't need to sabotage myself, I can keep going. And eventually, the thing that felt unfamiliar will start to feel normal. Success will stop feeling scary, and it'll simply feel like who you've been all along. It'll become second nature, and you will become more fully yourself.